I want to share this travel journal with you now that it's completed. It's done in the, what's it called? Accordion. Sometimes they call it Midori style. And I've used mostly Tim Holtz paper. And the whole thing overall is the Thelma and Louise road trip. And then I have this pretty ribbon I'm going to tie on the outside. It says Wanderlust, a strong desire for or impulse to wander or travel and explore the world. I think that's going to be perfect on the front of it. So you can see this cover here is embellished with a specimen card. And inside of that is a little trio of photos on the inside that I can't show you, but you can see that there has writing opportunities on the back side. It just slots right down in there. Here's a fun little go and see and explore sentiment. It's been adorned with some cheesecloth, and I love that sundial. And then we open it here. It has just a little Velcro dot. Here is the celebration part. Here's a snarky card that I made for the birthday girl, and there's a Starbucks card. So that just fits neatly right in there as a little introduction. It simply says travel journal, and that's just a little flippy. So we'll close that. We'll get into the inside. Now over here on the left is a policy envelope. Just opens like this. And then inside I've made this kind of little folder, very simple for maps or whatever. It just slots down in here. This pocket says tickets on it, suggesting that maybe you could put some tickets there. So let's close this up, get it out of our way. This side's a little complicated to show you because there is a picture back here of Brad Pitt who is dancing around on a bed holding a hairdryer. He's saying something about, you know, you're the one that's still in my heart. Not allowed to show you that photo, so I won't. And then there's also another photo here. This is also Brad Pitt, and it says to do. So I wanted to show you that I used this great backdrop paper. That's from the Wallpaper collection, and I just thought it was fitting for the whole bedroom scene. And then there's some lace here and some lace there. That kind of makes that page pretty cool. And behind here, I've slotted an envelope, and that envelope says good ideas, and inside here are just my offcuts so they don't go to waste. So let's stick it back in here before we turn the page. Now, here's a really big pocket. Try to stay in frame here. It's a cute little tag. This is actually a little library card. Then inside this big pocket is this picture, and I'm allowed to show you this one. It's a good place for journaling. This is where the car went off, supposedly. So we'll just slot that back in here. And then this here is, it says something about my hair's coming down, and there's a picture of Thelma and Louise on the reverse side of that. That's really cute. Now, this is a big belly band on this side. I got this from the Halloween backdrops. I just love that, so I used it in this. And there are two pictures here of Thelma and Louise. One of them's about never feeling this awake, and that one doesn't have a sentiment. It's just a nice place to write down some thoughts. A big side pocket here that's been covered with some beautiful vintage lace. These are a couple of photos of Thelma and Louise. One of them talks about she didn't turn out too sweet because of the way her husband treated her, and this one is, you know, I got this. One of them is them sitting on the car, and I think another one is holding ammunition or something like that. This is one of those fun zipper pockets. I have the die cut for that. And I made this fun little tag. It's got a little gun on it. Has ample writing space on the back. For fun, things to write down that you plan to do on your trip. On the other side of this is a picture of Brad Pitt. Here is something I'm actually allowed to show you because I don't need a website license for this. I got permission to show you this from Tom Howder, who created this. He mapped from the movie all the places that they went, all the places that they might have gone, they were supposed to go or talked about. Because if you remember, they were trying to avoid Texas, so they were trying their best to go everywhere but there. So I thought it was fun that he did that, and I wanted to include it. So now we're to the back, and the back page came out a little bit short, so I added this bit of canvas to it. And then I used this strip of Tim Holtz tape here. So I like that effect that you see the 3 different patterns there all at once. So we open this and we can see it's kind of a mail station. This is a piece of Tim Holtz paper that it's one long piece, but I cut it in half. So you can see how the pattern is similar. And it creates 2 pockets. So we'll pull this out so you can see that better. The pocket up here has a window, and this area is supposed to be where you would write down your addresses if you're going to send postcards and stuff like that while you're on your trip, and I've used offcuts for that. And then here is a little glassine bag, and it already has some stamps in it that are ready to go. So that just slots right in here. This section has a really long pocket, and there's a little specimen card here with a pretty tag. And this is meant to house any postcards that you might buy while you're on your trip. And I just put these in there as kind of placeholders. These are some freebies from My Porch Prints. So let's see what else we're going to be. Here's a nice big belly band, the world map. This is Tim Holtz paper, of course. Then here's a couple of more pictures. This one is of Thelma. She's making a phone call, and the quote has to do about what she's supposed to tell her husband when she makes that phone call. And then this one is of Louise, and it talks about her being inflexible or something like that. So then this fun pocket is nice and deep. I love how deep that is. Made this. Not all who wander are lost. Tim Holtz makes these really fat. They're like substantial sized sentiments. So what I do to keep them nice and flat and something like this is just take a ruler like this, take a ruler, and this just start like digging at it like that until I can pull away the top surface so I can get something really thin. Right in here are some little embellies. It says road trip, just a little place to make some extra notes. Now, inside of here is a really big card for reminders. This is a Roadhouse menu that I found. It's so cool. The hot cakes are only $8.95. Do you believe it? It's hard to believe, isn't it? That must be a really old menu. All right, let's turn the page. And this section is where I have a signature right here. I have it tied to kind of like keep it neat. Here's a little luggage pocket. And then this is one of those writing cards. This is 50-point chipboard. I've decorated it a little bit on one side, left it smooth on the other side. And I'll show you how that works in a minute when I open up the signature. This signature has some vellum paper, some background papers. Here's a pocket with a cute little tag and another little gun. There's a little offcut. So you would take your board when you wanted to do some serious note taking, and just put it under your piece of paper so that you have a nice surface. So that's how that works. So we'll slot that right back in here. So we have some pretty lined paper. This is tea stained paper, and often when we use tea stained paper, it comes in 8.5 by 11 size. And so you either have to fold over the end to make it fit or cut it off. And what I like to do is cut it off and then glue it back on. See how it makes this ruffly edge? I just love that. Here's a pretty pocket and some tags on ledger paper. This is a vintage postcard, or Route 66. And then there's a Thelma and Louise photo. Notes. This is a vellum pocket that's been stamped up, and then it's been stapled on with a tiny attacher. It's another one of those tea-stained pages. And then right in here clipped are 2 photos of Thelma and Louise. This says, "Let's keep going." It's a picture of the car. They're together in the car at the end. And then this one talks about Thelma's kneading Louise's, and it's a picture of both of them up close, which is really adorable. I wish I could show it to you, but the rules don't allow me to. This is that little, I think it's got 4 pockets at least. I showed you in one segment how I made this. So you can put stuff back here in the pocket itself, right here. Then in between both pockets here, then inside the pocket, and then of course here where I have this little glassine bag where something could be collected or saved. And that brings us back to the pretty front. Thanks for letting me share. I'm at the beginning of this project, and it's going to be a travel style junk journal. And I've decided to use my Tim Holtz Memoranda, and the specific papers that I've picked up are the map paper, of course. That marries very well with the whole theme. And then I wanted to throw in something that was feminine. This is also in the same pack. And I like the colorings on the back of it. These are neutral, so here's my thinking. I'm going to use 3 of these 12 by 12 papers. I'm going to glue them together. So this is the first one. It'll be glued to this pretty one. Am I in frame? Yes. And then at the end, we'll have another of the map papers. So we'll have 3 of them. And then we'll cut it down to size. So, you know I like to do prototypes. So here's a prototype I did with my clown paper, because I'm interested in seeing how wide I want it to be. Most of the travel journals I've seen are pretty narrow. They're like about 4 inches, maybe 4.5. I'm playing around with 5 inches just to give myself more room for decorating. So I took 12 by 12 papers, a red, a green, and a blue, and glued them together with like 1/2 inch index spines, and cut it down to about 9 inches so I could just see if I like it. I ended up with a flap here and a flap here, but I always wait before I cut off those flaps in case I'm going to use them as a pocket or something. Easier for them to already be on than to have to glue them back on. So I'm going to live with that a few minutes before I make the decision as far as measurements. Okay, let me catch you up. I have my 3 pieces of cardstock glued together now, and I want to show you the folds. There are 6 folds. So this is the cover, and this is fold 1, fold 2, fold 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is the back. Came out a little bit short, but I think that's going to be an interesting feature. And then it continues, some more real estate on the back for signatures or to make pockets out of. I used my corner rounder in a couple of places, and then I used this sanding block to smooth out some of the rough edges. I was thinking about distressing it, but smooth edges won. And then I went over the entire thing with my vintage photo, and that really helped with these corners because I did not use this. In the past, when I used Tim Holtz cardstock, it was just so brittle that this would split it, and I didn't want that to happen. So when I did my folding, I just used the pads of my fingers and did it very gently. And then I went back with this ink, covered up any perceived blemishes.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be